is Dr. Justina Agnieszka Chevalier. Now it is time, after the prior video, to determine correction in own life that is from a pursuit of to in an adult or post-pubertal person, sometimes in children, but less so, because children, unless pursuing emancipation as maximum love, have their parents. And because of those vectors that I've explained, when you ask a little boy, a person, man or woman, or an adult, who it is that you love the most in the world, that person will respond mom, dad, normally, or for instance brother or sister, whoever it is that provides, for instance, for safety and feelings of emotional fulfillment. When it comes to an adult person, first of all, it varies, but persons will in first instance answer, I love the most a person with whom I would like to pursue children with. And so that is why when there are persons who have felt more intensely about, that needs to be added, like I've described before, and analyzed for sexual content as sex source of children, because that brings greatest erotic mutual pleasure. And then when that is in some ways inferior or faulty, pursue relationship in such awareness that is not and is more, that is a possibility. Gay relationships are like that too, or relationships of exclusive work, celibate relationships in presence of God are such. But see, as an adult who we all possess, penis, vagina, and a instinct to reproduce, wantingly so, we wish to answer a question: who is that I love the most in the world, and prevents me, like I've established before, from pursuit of other persons in sexual act, and with them children, and prevents me in wanting or not wanting way, and prevents me from, if present in intensity of sexual impressions, pursuit of work, and this is wanted, because that person is in such state most wanted because of being most loved. Vector of that being most loved then marks all other sex as not possible and not wanted. And an answer, simple answer to when a person approaches, for instance, and sex is not wanted, to a person, would you like to have sex, or would you like me to, I don't know, look at your body, or whatever, is, I am sorry, because I would find that upsetting, because I am in love with someone else. And you see, that can be for and on a deity, but you see, that needs to include resolution first, which in Buddhism is pursuit of no longer attachment, of no longer these relationships being impeding in resentment, pursuit of celibacy. Also in love of marriage, there is always capacity, when persons are chosen rightly, to pursue person that is the most, is more than God, or at least as intense but parallel relationship, in no bubble, in awareness of that. And that is then second thing to establish. If we know sex impedes in love work, and this is permanent state, so for two persons, when in couple, given 100% reciprocity and chance to pursue sex and children, persons prefer then basic instinct-based provision for selves, and having as much as possible then to have children, and non-pursuit of altruism or other goals, because sex is of higher intensity in pleasure of love and being loved. That's why it is not. And so that is why when what impedes such, all of memories need to be included in that. So whoever we analyze then, according per self, from mind to body is source, per self, with all of those persons, answer the question first: is there anyone else, if I was to spend time with that person, pursuing that person, who I would prefer in mind loving that person more? If there is no one else, then that is that person that warrants some a presential pursuit to elaborate reciprocity. Because the second question is always, does that person feel the in same degree as I love for me? And it has to be for all relationship reciprocal. And then when we have such establishment, we do those exercises of finding ideal partner, the remedial, the establishment of persons, and then the remedial sexuality if persons are disabled or unable, men, to pursue a partner, and women when women are in fear, anger, or hatred, unable to sexually surrender and look remediation in harm or in pursuit of appearances of being sick or being jobs that are under um, someone deficient in, in qualifications, disguising that relationship, or such like cleaning, for instance, a person is educated, or secretary work when person has passion. And so now that is where the work starts. How do we know that the person that we love, in if given chance, if we find that person, prevents, because it's more wanted, we know that by pleasure and enthusiasm, love together in person, just like in the likes and loves, but mutual. We ask such question: which activity in work, for me, if given choice, gives me greatest thrill, sense of joy, and sense of satisfaction lifelong? And from there, then, from also in jails, for instance, starting with self, doing that with self, we teach persons self, to introduce self, like the officer I met in Kelso, for instance. First, or also here in Portland, first, last name, rank, and profession. And we seek well-being with showing enthusiasm for work, and pursue that for all. And that is what is respected, and source of love that can in some instances lead to love to that person. When does that happen? When that person visibly or in some way pursues well-being of self superior to all others. And that is now that has to be established. It is not remedial. It means taking all persons, mother, father, and all of authority figures, church persons, that person does not fall short. So if I approach, for instance, a gay couple, because that was a marriage, and ask, so sir, you say that you married a man because he provided you a coffee, and no one, your ex-wife never did that, and he was nicer, and gave you appreciation at work. If I today, for instance, spend with you 2 weeks and we do nothing else than we watch movies, we I don't know, walk, I praise you on everything that you do good, and that impresses me, I'll be explicit about it and tell you how great you are. Will you struggle to go back to that relationship because that other person will not provide, or does not provide, same degree then of that reflective love, because my love is greater for you and others? And if the answer is yes, then the relationship is vulnerable and work is then risky. And we don't want to medicate to pursue it, because those medications kill in side effects if we can prevent it. So then the power equilibrating I've described, we pursue then after investigating or giving person such question. First in self as officer, then in all of inmates and foster facility persons, all of clients as social work, all of also patients if possible in distress. We ask, out of all of lived memories, which activity would you always, or you still will always, have a source of greatest utmost joy, in such that it would occupy most of the day, during the day, and that in greatest enthusiasm you would always perfection and a source of unquestionable worth, following that rule, in realization of all, I pursue thriving of all, for progress in constant amelioration of what I'm doing. I do that, and many other persons do that. And then once we have that, we adjust to that person, first to self, name or nickname, that the limits, that good dimension. I know persons in corrections, or in many instances, do some degree of harm at work, or something happens, we fail. We have to, however, not seek for ridicule or for perpetuation of such, because remediation corrections is elaboration of an impossible to resist, derived from thrill, from personal wanting to be perceived as a good person and feel such about self, determination of what inevitably causes that person's joy and that person wants to pursue as main activity during their life. And then we call that person, for instance, personal response. I, all of my life, that was my student once, that I taught English and human rights, especially Declaration of the Child's Rights. And he says, I want to build houses. And he was little. I just want to build houses, this is all. And so I was like, what, but you don't want to pursue any, I don't know, higher degrees and things like that. I says, no, no, no. I really want to build and do in construction. Of course, it can change, but see, that was his passion, what he wanted to do. And since he was a little, he was, there's still a little boy, but even then he wanted to construct houses. And so see that when that child falls asleep during those classes, and I need to play a clown to be able to gain his attention so that he learns what he wants to learn, or what someone else wants to learn, and work with him towards that best of his life's happiness, then I have to know what it is that I'm competing in mind of his with. And so that's for him construction of houses. And when that is determined as goal of activities, greatest one, then we add that to self-esteem of a person. And I, as Chinese in a Satori, encourage them in corrections, officers to selves, and then persons who they, well, hopefully know for sure they're abroad because they needed their help. And then that help consists of knowing. So here is, for instance, the spreadsheet. I want to ask you what in your entire life, since you were a kid, remember, and still you would do preferably at all times, unless, for example, given a chance to have a loving, lasting relationship with the greatest, most loved partners, most loved in your life, sexual one. What would you that is expected to, if there is no life, fight and flight for area survival and all survival, to impede all other less important activities, including that very enthusiastic one, as natural right for to pursue license. And so we ask that, and we add as correctional action that to sense of self-worth and identity of that person. So a person says, for instance, in that case, in let's say I meet that man and he's an adult now, and he has, I am now still, because, for instance, there is not insufficient housing, unable to pursue a loving relationship. I have some candidates, some maidens that I would like to, but I am non-stop building houses, madam, because you see, I cannot right now stop when persons, winter is coming, persons are cold. And I tried, but my girlfriend says also, no, no, go and build. I am in turn I prefer cooking, and so that's what I'm doing. I'm providing food because there's still hunger, especially during that virus. And so that is when he knows that this is what he prefers and thrives. Evaluation all across all of my life. This is what I prefer. And we add that and we say, Mr. Constructor,